Hi, this is Mrs. Jones, and we are going to be working on systems of equations with substitution. If you are in my class, you know that we went over this starting last week on Friday. Today we're going to continue it with a video. You have a sheet that's going to go along with me. If you'll turn to this side where it has the first step and all that, and make sure you have your name on your paper. As we do this, you're to fill in the blanks and solve the problems over on this side as I go through and solve them. You can stop on the video as you go to fill in things, go back if you don't understand it, and hopefully you'll get a better understanding of this concept. So, here we go. Systems of equations, substitution. Whenever you're doing systems of equations, you're going to start with two equations. And to do substitution, the first thing you want to look at is if you want to make sure you have one of the variables alone on one side of the equal sign. You want to isolate one of your variables, and it could be the x or the y, and it can be in either equation. Well, when I look over here at this equation, do I have one of them that has the x or the y alone on one side of the equal sign? Yes, I do, up here. So what does that mean? Well, then we go to step 2. And that is substitute what that variable is equal to into the other equation. So this variable right here, this y, is equal to 2x minus 11. Those two values are the same. Just like we watched in a video the other day where he said, it's kind of like this might be a $10 bill and these are 2 5s. They don't look just alike, but they are. They're equal. Okay, so then down here we are going to have, we're going to use this equation, a negative 2x minus 3y equals a negative 7. And we're going to substitute what that variable, that y, is equal to into this equation. So we have a negative 2x minus 3. And instead of y, we're going to put what y is equal to in there. So we're going to put 6x minus 11. And then put it equal to a negative 7. Now it's time to solve this problem and, oh goodness gracious. Now it's time to solve this problem and solve for the variable x. Sorry about that, guys. Now to solve an equation, you're going to use your steps. So you're going to do the distributed property, then combine like terms. There's also a YouTube video on that if you need to go back and review it. All right, so our first step here is to do the distributive because we have a parentheses. So let's bring this down. And a negative 3 times 6x is a negative 18x. Write this down, please. You should be writing down all this problem. A negative 3 times a minus 11 is a positive 33. And then just bring that down. Okay, what are we going to do next? Good, we're going to combine like terms. So right here we have like terms. So when you have a negative 2 minus 18, when they're the same sign, you add them and they get that sign. So they become a negative 20x. Bring everything else down. Now guys, if you're forgetting how to add these or how to do a negative 2 minus 18, then you really need to do some research on that and find some practice because that's a skill you learned a while back. So we don't have time right now to go over that one. Now it's time to do inverse operations. I want to do the inverse of adding or subtracting. So let's subtract our 33 from both sides. Oh, I'm sorry. We're actually, guys, we're on step 3 now. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and show you step 3. And that's to solve for the variable following the steps for solving a multi-step equation. This is actually the name of the video if you have forgotten how to do these steps that we're doing right now. You can go back and watch that. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So you have the multi-step equation. Okay, so back up here. We have done the distributive property. We combined like terms. Now we're doing inverse operations. We get a negative 20x. A negative 7 minus 33. They're the same sign, so you add them, and it gets that sign. And that gives you a negative 40. Now let's divide both sides by negative 20. And you get x is equal to a positive 2. All right, so we've done steps 1, step 2, and step 3. Now let's see what we're going to do in step 4. All right, step 4 tells us to substitute the value, that value that we just found, x is equal to 2. You're going to substitute the value of that variable into the other equation. So we're going to take that 2 and we're going to plug it back into that first equation. So let's do that now. Okay, so the first equation is y equals 6x minus 11. So here we go. I'm going to do y equals 6x minus 11. Because your whole point in doing systems of equations is you want to get that x and y answer. So I'm going to substitute 2 in place of the x. And that gives me, to solve it, you do multiplication. And then you're going to end up getting y is equal to 1. And the final part down here, the 5th step, told me to solve for this variable following the steps for solving a multi-step equation. And your answer is going to be the x and y coordinates. So we don't have our final answer down yet. Our final answer is going to be 2, 1. It's going to be your x value and your y value, x, 2. All right, if you will turn over to the back of your worksheet, we're going to do one more example on the back. Now, when you look at this example, I want you to see, step 1 told me to see if we have the same, if we have a variable by itself on either side of the equal sign. Well, no, we don't. So our first step is to take, which is right over here. After following step 1, you see that neither of these equations have a variable x or y alone on one side of the equal sign. Therefore, you use inverse operations to get a variable all by itself. And when you get it by itself, that's when you isolate it. Okay, so let's look back up at these equations and figure out which one would be better to get the y or the x by itself. And I think it would definitely be this one. Because in this one, we already have the y right here by itself. We just have to move that. All right, so we're going to take the problem, a negative 5x plus y equals a negative 2. And we're going to change from standard into slope-intercept form. That's also one of my new videos that I just added. So if you have forgotten how to go to standard to slope-intercept form, then I suggest you go back and watch that. Okay, so we want to move this mx over there using inverse operations. So let's add 5x to both sides. And that gives me y equals 5x minus 2. You want to bring both of those down. They're unlike terms, so you cannot combine them. All right, now it's time to go back and follow the steps that were on the front of your paper. All right, so step 1, to make sure you have one of your variables alone on one side of the equal sign. Now we have it. Okay, step 2, substitute what that variable is equal to into your other equation. So we're going to take this equation right here, and we're going to substitute this in place of the y. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take the other equation, which is a negative 3. Let me slide this up for you here. A negative 3x plus 6y equals a negative 12. All right, we're going to substitute in place of y what's equal to y, which is 5x minus 2. All right. Step 3 on the front says solve for the variable following the steps for solving a multi-step equation. So here we go. The first step here would be to the distributive property. So 6 times 5 is 30, x, and 6 times a negative 2 is a negative 12, equal to a negative 12. Just bring that down. All right, what do we do next here? Great, we're going to combine like terms. All right, so that gives me a negative 3x plus 30x gives me 27x minus 12 equals a negative 12. Now I'm going to you can put your line there if you need to, do the inverse of adding or subtracting over here. So we're going to add 12 onto both sides. Bring down the 27x, and that gives you a 0. The last step, divide both sides by 27, and you end up getting x is equal to 0. And you can get that. All right, now we're on step 4. This is on the front of your paper, step 4, the fourth step. We're going to substitute the value of that variable into the other equation. So when I say the other one, we just use the one that has a negative 3x. So we're going to substitute this value right here into the other equation, which would be that one. We just solved all of this using that one. So let's plug the x into this one. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do that. So let's put the other equation is a negative 5x plus y equals a negative 2. All right, here we go. We're going to substitute in that x is now a 0. So in place of x, I'm going to plug in a 0. Now I'm going to use the steps for solving a multi-step equation. A negative 5 times 0 is 0, which basically means you don't have anything here. So you have y is equal to a negative 2. Well, we have our answer now. Because remember, your answer has to be the x and the y coordinate. So your final answer down here at the bottom is going to be, you have to have the x and the y, 0, a negative 2. All right, I'm going to show you your homework assignment. You can pause the video to write it down. After you write it down, you are not to work on it yet. You are to first log into iReady to take a little test. And then after that, you can start working on your homework. or you can work on an I Ready video to get your I Ready done for this week. So here are your homework problems. I want you to do problems 1 and 2. This one, you'll notice, already has a y by itself. So when you substitute in for y, you're just going to put that x minus 1 and then solve. Here, I would probably get this problem and do the inverse of a negative 5x to get that y all by itself. Thank you very much, and remember to always be kind.